This episode of United Hour is sponsored by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Lads, it's time to gear up and get yourself the gift of shaving this holiday season. I'm talking about the Manscaped Perfect Package 2.0. You don't want to use the same trimmer on your face as you're using on your balls. That's just nasty. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. Their lawn mower has proprietary skin-safe technology, so this trimmer won't nick or snag your nuts. Manscaping accidents are finally a thing of the past. Manscaped also has the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits, so why aren't you putting deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? So go over to manscaped.com and you can get 20% off and free shipping from their entire range with the code BIGHEADS. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code BIGHEADS, BIGHEADS. Always use the right tools for the job. Your balls will thank you.
Yeah! The shout now. Well done, Bobby Johnson. Well done, Manchester United. It's a Sheringham, and Solskjaer has done it! And it's saved it! United again! Rooney! A magnificent goal by Robin van
Persie. Welcome to United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm your host this week, Nick.
I'm Colm.
Yeah, just two of us this week. We've had a couple of people fall down to the man flu and all of this time of year. There was Reese and maybe Ed and even Oshwin out in USA. But yeah, at the end of it, it's just myself and Colm. We're recording on the evening after another loss, unfortunately, against Watford. We will also touch on our Carling Cup, League Cup, whatever the hell it's Carabao Cup nowadays, win against Colchester, so we're in the semi-final. But yeah, look, let's start with the game today, Colm. And, just to say, I've not been on the last couple of podcasts, and I think last time against Everton, I've actually felt you guys were a bit too negative because, I'm still like...
Because there were so many positives to take from the game.
Yeah, look, I didn't think we were so awful, and I thought, we were still not... we could have won that match, and apart from, I'd say that it was a foul for sure on De Gea for me. So I thought you were a bit too negative. But today, it's difficult to be anything apart from negative, really. I mean, yeah, the performance wasn't up to it. And yeah, in general, I know, you've been kind of moving towards the kind of Ole outside, whereas I'm still saying, look, he needs to have a bit more time. So I think that's surely going to be our general discussion today.
I mean, this may turn into, I'm sure, a bit of an Ole in, Ole out face-off here that we're about to have. And I do think there's every argument that he should be sacked. Personally, I think it's maybe better keeping him to the end of the season, but that's through no, I think, success of his own, in my opinion. More just that it would be more harmful to get rid of him than it would be to keep him at this stage, and more of a kind of a harsh one for the next manager to come into. But I'm so fed up. I'm so fed up with it, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I do understand a lot of the things that you've moaned about, and it's kind of, we have a totally different perspective on it in a way, because I know I listened to last week, there was you, Reese, Alex, there was a lot of talk about the coaching. And yeah, look, you can't really argue with the fact that we're not being so well coached at the moment. But, for me, there's a lot of mitigating circumstances. And yeah, look, it comes down to the fact that, I just don't think Ole's ever had the squad to really be like doing what he wants to be doing. And I want to be seeing him given like a couple more windows to have a chance there.
And I totally understand that, and I don't think it's unfair, and I really, really, really admire the optimism, the constant optimism, because it is, I think, a choice to decide to kind of see things that way. I would suggest that it's slightly lacking in objectivity. I don't mean that in a bad way necessarily, because I think it is just important to be glass half full rather than glass half empty in a lot of situations. particularly when you don't actually have that much control over them, which as fans we ultimately have extremely little control over. So that more positive outlook, I'm sure, helps you week to week, rather than how upset. I mean, I packed away the Christmas tree today. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. That was a real weekend killer for me. But the thing I do keep coming back to is that I just feel that, and it was one of the reasons why I asked the question on the pod last week in terms of what does a manager actually control nowadays? What impact does a manager actually have? And how much of the responsibility should they shoulder? Because it's something that I just keep going back and forth on myself over the past while, and specifically in relation to Ole's tenure, because sometimes I think I am being much, much too critical, and then other times I think cop on, actually, that this is just his job, and we are making far too many excuses that you simply wouldn't make if it wasn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United, given that he was, the treble winner, and that we are at the moment in such a malaise and have had such a bad run of kind of unsuccessful appointments. And I just think it's this kind of perfect storm where, as you say, you're sort of saying he deserves better, he needs more of a squad, what he has isn't good enough. And I just look around and think, what he has isn't that bad. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as what I think we're seeing. And even if it is that bad, there should still be identifiable things that he's able to control and make better. I don't even see that either. And at that point, I'm just like, well, maybe I am not being too harsh, and it's just that it just feels objectively that's the way it is,
Yeah, as I say as well, the whole perspective comes into it. I think we've talked about before how, I know a lot of the people, I'm not even talking about yourself, but the kind of Ole out argument is saying, look, he had a few good months, and then we've been generally very up and down, and we were awful at the end of last season. Whereas I've said before many times that for me, this summer was a complete kind of reboot and a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened last season is almost forgotten for me because, so many big players left. There's obviously been a big focus on trying to bring in youth players, integrate some of the newer players coming in. And Ole himself as well have talked about how, some decisions were made that maybe in the short term might hurt us. And I'm pretty sure he's talking about getting rid of players like Lukaku,
of course,
Sanchez. But he's saying, for the long term, this would push us forward. And as somebody, who I find difficult to really love some of our teams recently, even under Mourinho, we won the Europa League. We had some success, came second, but I never really felt like a big affinity with that team. It's partly because, his style of football. It's partly as well because I actually never really wanted Jose. Whereas with Ole, there's a lot of things about this team which separate to the coaching that I know is your kind of big focus and the style that I do like. And, last week, of course, you guys talked about that, 4,000 games or whatever that we've had an academy player in the team. And for me, these are the real ethos of what is Manchester United. And he's the one who really focuses and brings these things in. And it's why I am willing to give him, and I'm happy to admit, I'm willing to give him more leeway than anybody else. And actually, it's not just because it's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I'd give the same to anybody who was a hardcore Manchester United player from the years. I mean, maybe it might have been Giggs. It might have been, I don't know, it could have even been bloody Steve Bruce. Who knows? But something like that. But that is why I'm willing to give him that more time. I want to see him being given the full chance. I said myself on I think 2-3 weeks ago when Pochettino was fired that was the first time that I started wavering, because I am a big Pochettino fanboy. As you know, on this podcast, even before Mourinho came in, I said, no, I don't want him. Pochettino is the one we should be going for. So that was the only bit that starts giving me a bit of doubt in my own mind. We then, of course, had those two big wins against Tottenham, against City, and all of a sudden you're like, look, this is the guy we need to put our hat on. You follow that, on the Red Cafe, they have the kind of Ole Saccometer that has been going back and forth all season. And after those couple of wins, for the first time in weeks, maybe months, it went to the majority of people saying, we want to keep Ole, but it was still only something 52%, 48, your typical Brexit figures or something like that. And then, unsurprisingly, I just had a quick look at it before coming on air. It's now gone back down the other way to kind of, I think, 52% Ole out, 48 in or whatever. But look, there's... The thing is, I think it's the same thing I heard you say a couple of weeks ago after we had those big 2 wins. You say, listen, I'm really happy about it, but it doesn't change my perspective that much. And it's kind of similar for me that even though we lose today, it doesn't actually change my perspective that much, because I still think that the reason for that is that we're missing somebody like Pogba, who is our main creative player, that the squad is weak after players like that. So, and obviously I'm totally pissed off. And yeah, it was a poor performance, and you can't really come up with any reasons to support the team after today. But it doesn't change my perspective that much, because for me, yeah, the squad, there's been obvious weaknesses all the way, and especially when big players like Pogba are missing is why we struggle to break down these teams.
Of course, and that's all totally fair enough. I think, I think you saw immediately in 30 minutes what Pogba brings to us. I thought he was probably the only player that came off the pitch there wearing a red shirt that had any credit in the bank. I think,
and I was actually quite shocked that after being out for that long that he could make that a bigger impact so quickly.
I think, to temper it slightly, I think that's a very easy situation for him to come into, because we're already 2-0 down. We haven't looked like creating the entire game, other than through essential fluke, and therefore, of course, Watford are going to sit in. Of course, he's going to get time in the ball. But being Pogba, he still had that desire. He wanted the ball all the time, and every time he had it, he wanted to do something with it. He was drifting out to the left quite a lot, and he just showed you what an unbelievable footballer is, because he immediately looked more skillful than any of our wingers. His crossing looked better than any of our wingers. When he had it deep, his over the top passing was exceptional. On the button 2 or 3 times, and really we should have put away some of those chances. And he was combative. His passing was sharp. He looked absolutely bang on for me, to the point where I was thinking, A, why didn't he come on at half time? B, why didn't he actually just start the game? And I get, you don't want to rush him back, and I'm sure Ole just wanted the boys to get the job done without him, obviously not to risk further injury, but he did look fantastic. And also, I was pleased to see it, because I do have reservations about playing him at 10, I think, in this current team. And given that Ole clearly will not stray from this 4-2-3-1 for anything other than a kind of a one-off tactical mismatch like mighty Sheffield United, I think I had reservations that Pogba won't actually be a very high-functioning 10, but just because of the sheer absence of any quality at 10, Jesse Lingard, Andreas Pereira, Juan Mata, all, just fighting each other to get out the door quickest, in my opinion, because none of them have made any kind of a stamp on that position. All of them have looked horrendous, essentially, bar a few kind of individual performances, usually against the bigger teams. That Pogba, of course, was going to come into that role and be better than them, but would he actually be a good 10, or is that just some place we need to buy, essentially? But he looked brilliant there today. Again, in an easy situation, I think, because we did just have the ball, we did just control it. I would worry about his kind of energy and press as a 10, but to be honest, I'm quite fed up with pressing 10s at the moment. I'm quite happy to have just a very good footballer in there for the next few games, so it will be interesting to see how much of a difference he makes. It could go a long way to repairing our season and taking the stress off Ole and making everyone a lot happier just in terms of the football, because I haven't looked at the stats, but I'm sure he alone created 3, 4, 5 chances and could have scored himself today, and you are going to get more of that with him. So that's probably the only positive I think you could take from today.
Yeah, he has obviously been that huge loss, and there's been so much talk about him while he's been out, and people coming up with conspiracy theories that he's never going to play for us again, he's leaving in January. And I think it was a few weeks ago we had a chat where I said to you, look, I wouldn't bet money on him staying, but I don't consider that he's definitely a player out the door. Whereas I think you and Reece said, look, I'll be shocked if he's still here after next summer. But yeah, even I'll be surprised.
It's beginning to look like there's no one who really wants him / can buy him, and I certainly thought that's what I took from the kind of Raula press leak. That very conveniently, once the storm kind of was building around Pogba, and this is just so indicative of the kind of circus that follows Manchester United and to a lesser extent Paul Pogba around the place, like it or lump it, it's just always there. But when this kind of narrative amongst the fans or amongst the media starts to build that he might not play for us again, that question is in his attitude or his injury or whatever else, and then very quickly there's a story leaked when literally 4 or 5 months ago his agent was saying the complete opposite. He suddenly changes tune and says, oh no, we're committed, we just want better players around Paul and stuff like that. All understandable, but it just shouldn't need to happen. It just shouldn't. We shouldn't need that leak or that story or anything like that. You should just show up and play his football, and we'll see what happens in the summer.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And to be honest, for the most part, most stories we hear is that, look, he is committed, he's very good in training. Of course, there was that bit of stuff in the summer where he starts talking about saying maybe it's time for a change, and everybody's jumped on that. And I know a lot of people who want to see him out the club. I often talk about on this program about the difference in opinion between kind of matchgoers and online, and how matchgoers are still very supportive of Ole. But I will say that amongst a lot of the people who are matchgoers, like nearly all of them think that Pogba should be sent out the door ASAP for whatever money we can get for him. Whereas, I'm not totally on that. I've not lost hope for him, just because I think he is such a great player, and he is, for me, like that kind of missing piece that we've just not had like nearly the whole season, and for me is the big reason why we have struggled so much, especially in those games where we're trying to break people down. I think it's no like headline news that Pogba is one of our most creative players. I think we all knew that, but like you said before yourself, that it's just been the deficiencies of the likes of Lingard, Mata, Pereira, where we've just had absolutely nothing from them whatsoever, and why we've missed him even more, really.
I am interested to see him come back and have a run of form. I think if we get into January and February and we're still struggling in a similar vein, I'll be upset, obviously, because I'm upset every time I watch Manchester United at the moment. But I think either way, it'll provide a bit of clarity for us. I think the kind of options are that we'll see a big upturn in performances, with Pogba being very directly linked to that through goals and assists, and that would be brilliant. And if we start putting away teams comfortably and being in control of matches and actually looking like we're going to consistently create and score goals, particularly against lesser teams, then I'll be buzzing, I'll be delighted, and it would give me a lot of confidence that even if Pogba does leave in the summer, we can replace him with someone else and the system will still work, and that Ole can still progress with that, and that would be great. I fear that although Pogba will make a big difference in, I'm sure, a lot of games, that we will still meander through this kind of up and down form, perform well in some games, perform absolutely abjectly in other games. And it will be interesting to see how much of a difference Pogba makes in that, because if we still maintain this level of form or only increase in quality slightly, I think you really then are, hanging your hat on the very last excuse that you can possibly make for Ole and this group of players, even because, we have had. So there's the clear out in the summer, which I totally accept. You cannot take 7 or 8 players out of a squad, even if they're average players or haven't been performing, not replace them and then expect to be any better off. Really, I don't think that's just not really reasonable. So I do believe clearing out your Sanchez's, your Lukaku's, Chris Smalling, regrettably, but a few other centre backs could follow him out. Herrera, unfortunate as well. Fellaini, probably fair enough. All this kind of stuff. Matic, even this season, clearing out these players was important for Manchester United. I still would absolutely support Ole on that. I think it was the correct decision, even though it's going to put us back in the short term, i.e. this season. So that's fair enough. That's one excuse. I think now we're coming away from that just through sheer time. He has the squad he has. He'll make sense in January, maybe next summer, and we'll see where we are. But that was his decision, essentially, to play with this squad. So I think that kind of excuse can only go so far. Then you have the injuries, which 100% again, I think is a totally legitimate, as you say, mitigating factor for our performances this season. We have lacked Martial for large swathes. We have lacked Pogba for almost the entirety of the season. There's been times where we haven't had any kind of midfielders to play. When Scott McTominay was out, we have had defensive injuries and stuff like that. Shaw's been coming or going. We've had to chop and change a lot with players. So that's another thing. But now we're into a kind of relatively consistent patch. And you would say now that our first 11 is fully fit, completely fit. If Pogba is fit for next week or whatever, I can't think of anyone really notable that we're missing at this point, if anyone at all. So again, that excuse is now going to fall by the wayside. And then the final thing is that, we have no creativity. Pogba's this player that we've been missing the whole year. You'll suddenly see this 4-2-3-1 looks good, but just lacks that 10, and that's the big issue everyone has. Be it Pereira, be it Lingard, be it Mata, that all the other players are going to thrive so much more when we have that functioning 10. And if in the coming weeks that proves not to be the case, for me, it will be the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think I said myself, a month ago or 2, whenever it was, that if we'd had these results that we've had this season with a fully fit squad, then there is no excuses for Ole. But the fact that a player, especially like Pogba, Martial, who, I think we should chat about a bit because, maybe he's not really been pulling up the trees that we hoped he would do after he came back from injury. But Pogba especially for that creativity. If these players had been in the team all season and we'd had the results we had, then it is very difficult to support Ole any further, really. Even though I do still think there's weaknesses in the squad, it's really more. I still think our first 11 is pretty decent. It's more like when players are out, who comes in has been the major issue.
It's comfortably third, fourth, fifth, I think, in the Premier League in terms of talent, quality-wise.
Exactly.
If it's at its strongest. Now, whether you actually get there or not, but you should be in contention. It's not, whatever. I mean, you could pick any number, statistics and records, against us versus the bottom 12, 13, 14 teams in the league. There's a myriad of stats going out there that are just so damning, and it's not nearly that bad.
I mean, it is actually crazy, like the difference between our record, the fact that we've beaten City, Tottenham, Chelsea, Leicester, drew with Liverpool, but then, we lose to the likes of Newcastle, Bournemouth, Watford, and it's just...
What do you think that says about us, Nick?
I've really tried to think about, especially after today, because like in some of these other matches, sometimes, we had players out and you'd think, all right, but today, as you said, it's the first time in a while that we've actually played the same. I think it's 3 games in a row in the Premier League that we've put out the same starting 11. And it's the first time like the whole season that we've managed to have some kind of consistency in the first 11. All right, we played a midweek match. They didn't. It was a slightly stronger team than I expected midweek, and it's something I have actually criticised Ole for because I expected him to focus more on the league, and I personally think that's where we need to be focusing. But he's put a lot onto the cups now, and I can kind of understand it from his perspective. He's like, look, I don't know how long I'm going to be Manchester United manager. If I can win the League Cup, then that's is great for me. I can semi-understand it. But he started with Maguire, Shaw, Rashford, Martial midweek. I was slightly surprised against Colchester. I don't know if that comes into it. I mean, I was actually looking quickly just to see what have been our results after our midweek games, and we have struggled. Bournemouth again, that was a match we lost. We'd played midweek and they hadn't. These things come into it a lot where that team have had a whole week to prepare for us, whereas we've gone off to play, whether it's Europa League, whether it's League Cup, and then you only have 2-3 days preparation. Plus you throw in that, today Watford are on their new manager bounce. I think Reece himself had kind of noted that they'd actually had a really good performance against Liverpool last week. And he'd said, look, it's not going to be easy, it looks easy on paper against bottom of the league team, but under Nigel Pearson, he's like that kind of new version of used to bring in Big Sam to save you, or I don't know if you remember, or if it shows my age, that there used to be Harry Bassett they used to bring out whenever a team looked like they're going to get relegated around Christmas, and these were the...
I generally don't think I've ever heard that name before in my life.
All right, he was one of these guys, and he was somebody at panic stations around Christmas time. If somebody's marooned, they were bring him in, and he was just one of these who'd come in, try and gee everybody up, say, look, you're going to have to fight, you're going to whatever, and it was just one of these kind of motivators.
We should get one of them in. I think the schedule does have a lot to do with it. I mean, it's obviously coupled with the fact that we're basically running off a 16-man squad, and of those, most of them he doesn't even want to play because they're literally pointless players. The like of Matic, they're at the end of their careers, or they're at the end of their United careers, so he's not even rotating them in, I think, because he realises that it's almost pointless. And I also think Ole understands that he probably needs some cheap wins this year in terms of a good cup run. I think the League Cup is probably more important to him than it is to any of us, but that for probably quite a good reason. Certainly Europa League is a huge priority, and broadly we've done well in these competitions. I mean,
our cup runs are going pretty well at the moment.
We're firing on all fronts. We're just horrendous in the league, which is it's not the cup runs you can't
bizarrely we're still we are still,
of course we are.
All right, still just in the top 4 race, even though we lose today. A week ago we're just a couple of points of Chelsea, but then today they've won, we've lost.
It's a crazy season based on how bad everyone has been. Essentially, we're not far off Arsenal territory. I think personally, when I look at us, I'm sure we're all sitting absolutely laughing at them and the kind of issues they're having over there with Freddie Ljungberg and Ozil and just all their awful players. But I don't think we're miles apart from Arsenal, to be honest. I see a lot of similarities, but then equally you could say we're not miles off Chelsea.
Well, I actually think the big difference between us and Arsenal is that we've had our starting a total reboot of the team in the summer, whereas they're going to start it now.
Yeah, and that's probably fair.
You know, I was talking about a good friend of mine who's an Arsenal fan, and he was saying, yeah, look, we need to just have a total clear out and start from scratch. Whether Arteta's the man to do it. But yeah, this seems to be the fashion at the moment, going back to Lampard's, Arteta's, even Duncan Ferguson's had a few games there. It's the kind of new fashion, isn't it? Going retro 90s style and bringing back the old school managers.
Yeah. But I just think, I do think the fixture list has become very congested, and obviously we have a tiny squad made smaller by injuries, so we willfully made that a small squad in the summer, which again, absolutely fine with. We then picked up a lot of injuries, or not even a lot of injuries, but key injuries, and that made the squad shrink even more.
Yeah, it was more like we had several injuries in particular positions, which was really killed us, wasn't it?
And I think that does, when you look at, first half, in almost every game that wasn't against City or Spurs, I suppose, was okay. But we're an awful first half team. We have a real issue with coming out and looking just absolutely clueless, not up for it, not ready. There was that whole thing about the bus being late today.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure doesn't help. But I do think these midweek fixtures do play a part. It's just a lot of minutes for a lot of players there, and that does build up into sort of a hangover kind of thing where, individual games stop mattering, or you don't have that same focus on maybe the manager's instructions or the tactics or just the general day, and I do think we're seeing that being played out. It's another kind of excuse, I would say, and I probably say that a lot, and it's not something that holds a tremendous amount of water, but I think it would be unfair not to factor it in, because these players have played a lot of minutes in a lot of competitions, and it does just turn into a bit of a rigmarole.
That's the thing now, it's becoming beyond just being a bit of a joke and a bit of a coincidence. And there has to be some root cause to it. And yeah, I do think there's something in this, all right, we win that game midweek, we draw Manchester City. All of a sudden, the players thinking, yeah, we've got a semi-final against City in a couple of weeks.
My only sort of counter to that, and I do think it's all about the mindset of the team and the kind of moment that you're in, because I would look at, Liverpool's squad is so thin as well. And has been that way for the last few years. If you look at their bench for what will almost unfortunately be a championship winning team and a European Cup winning team as it was last year, their bench is painfully average, really painfully average. There isn't a great amount of depth there, and they keep the same starting 11 in almost all their fixtures, and they're contending with this World Cup and all that kind of stuff as well. And yet for them, it seems to, and I know I'm comparing us to a team that is at the moment, unfortunately, light years ahead of us. And I don't mean to just say, oh, it's so easy, we should just be like Liverpool. But for me, it shows the difference that the kind of positive momentum and the inspiration from the manager can make to an essentially identical situation. Now, don't get me wrong, they haven't had the injuries we've had to their key players, but I don't think it's a dissimilar situation in terms of squad strength. Not necessarily ability and all that kind of stuff, but just in terms of the numbers and the similarity of the team sheets each week, I think it's quite similar. And obviously the fixture congestion, theirs is the same, if not slightly more than ours, although I would say playing Europa is worse than playing Champions League, obviously. So there is a way to do it and to build momentum and to keep using those same players, but do it in a clever way and to kind of feed off it and look like, they're in a position where they just look like, even when they don't play well, they just win. Like it's all the players know how to do. And that comes from those same players experiencing that every week.
Yeah, and look, we used to do that for years ourselves, so we know what it's like. But
exactly.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. There is a mentality issue at the moment where we're lacking, and how you get back in there. Yeah, it's one of the, if we start talking about things from the match today, that, there's been too many times this season that we've conceded a goal and then we look disarray for the next 5-10 minutes. Today we've conceded 2 goals in 5 minutes. At half time, it was 0-0. We hadn't been playing very well. The game in general was pretty poor. I think neither team had a shot on target or something in the whole first half. I still actually at half time wasn't that worried. Thought, look, we've been pretty bad, but look, I'm sure we can come out in the second half, create enough chances to win this match. Even midweek against Colchester, we were 0-0 at half time. Which is against whatever League Two opposition. So to be honest, I wasn't that worried, but within 10 minutes, the game's gone.
Well, I thought what was really interesting about today, or really depressing about today, was, yes, the first half was pretty abject. I think we had that one Jesse chance, which was a complete fluke, and then he completely fluffed, which was just like a a very frustrating point, I'm sure, for myself and everyone else watching as well. But beyond that, we didn't create, they didn't create, as you said. One of my big disappointments was Ole gets them in at half time, doesn't change anything, and we come out worse. We came out worse in the second half than we were in the first half, which is almost unbelievable. And I don't understand that.
I don't know if we came out worse. I didn't see that much difference until just De Gea drops an absolute clanger and the goal goes in.
Well, we didn't create anything in the first 10 minutes, and they started to come on to us, and that's where they got their chance from. So I can't say it's any. I mean, if anything, it was exactly the same. But I would argue, by virtue of conceding the chances, and of course it's a De Gea freakish goal, but we were under pressure from them before that goal was scored, if you know what I mean. So I just, what happened at half time? Did they go in and think, oh, this is going grand, we'll just, I'm sure we'll get a goal here? To me, there was no, and that just shows how I think we've gotten so used to these first half performances.
But the ironic thing is that we have actually had, and there's one thing that I'd been positive about Ole more recently against, Villa, for example. We'd gone in down at half time and actually came out and played much better in the second half. And there's been a few times, right, Sheffield United as well, we went down, came back into the game. There has been a few times recently where we have conceded and come back into it. And that was the most disappointing thing today, that we've not scored a goal after going, losing 2 goals in quick succession over there. I mean, that again, for me, like today, can you blame Ole for the fact that David De Gea is just letting an absolute clanger?
No, you can't. You can't blame him for that. You can't blame him for Aaron Wan-Bissaka thinking he is God's gift to tackling and making just an awful decision. And then De Gea for being awful at penalties, never getting anywhere near them, even though I'm sure, there was like 3 of us who said at the time, this is going straight down the middle. It was just the most obvious thing in the world.
No, yeah, it's true. When there's penalties, you just don't expect anything from De Gea. I don't know why, but he's never been a goalie who
Ole can't control that. He can't go out there on the pitch and play for them, absolutely. And I don't mean, we focus so much on Ole and the whole media and all United fans. It's the talk of the town, and it's not fair because it's not just Ole. The players absolutely are wildly inconsistent, an extremely young squad, which is something that I always try and remind people of, because a lot of the team have played a lot of minutes, and they're like a Rashford, Martial are by no means inexperienced players, but they are still young players, and there's a lot of them even younger than them in the squad, so you do have to factor that in as well. But it is Ole's job to coach them, and I know I keep banging on about this. And there's big divides at the moment. People say it's coaching. People say no, it's the players. People say no, it's the whole structure. People say no, we're just very close, but we've just been unlucky and we're just missing this, that, and the other. But I just keep coming back to this coaching. It's not Ole's fault that De Gea threw it into his own net, and it's not Ole's fault that Aaron Wan-Bissaka got a tackle wrong. It is his fault, I think, that we looked completely abject for 70 minutes of that game, and even not that great in the last 20 when we were piling on the pressure. That is his fault, in my opinion. It is his fault that we set up in the same way that was proven to be absolutely ineffective against Everton, against Villa, against differently Sheffield United, because we set up differently, against Newcastle, against West Ham, against Palace. And he's persisted with this formation and persisted in playing players who have just consistently let him down in those positions. And I get that he doesn't have a huge amount of wiggle room in terms of who he picks. We've had the Garner debate, we've had the Greenwood, Daniel James debate. But even just to change up the shape or the intent, we come out and play the exact same time every week. And at a certain point, I'm like, that quote about the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's what I see, because when you look at how we've performed this year, we've won 8% of our games where we've dominated possession. So when we've had more than 50% of possession, or more than 60, I don't know exactly where the bar is for that, but where we've had the lion's share of the ball, we've only won 8% of those 12 games or whatever. It's something ridiculous like that. So it's so stark that when we have less of the ball, we counterattack, we play good teams, we do very well. When we have the ball, we are completely clueless and complete failure, and that has been proven over such a long period of time now. This entire season, we've actually been consistent this season in our output. When we play good teams, we're good. When we play bad teams, we're horrendous. We've been like that for almost every game except maybe Norwich.
Yeah, it's true. And I think even Alex said last week that we were talking about Watford, and he said, yeah, well, look, this is going to be our most difficult game, right? He said, the shitter the team, the worse we are.
And it's so true, and it's borne out in all the figures, all the stats. And to me, Ole is in charge of that, because after a certain, the first time okay, the second time okay, the third time maybe, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th time, then no, I'm sorry, you have to do something different. You have to be working on things in the training ground. You have to be showing your fullbacks. I mean, Wan-Bissaka and Shaw were both awful today, but the general positioning of our team is just not tactically aware for a team that keeps the ball. We look like when we have the ball, all our players want to come in really tight and be all stand around each other and just pass the ball to absolutely zero effect. And a good coach would say that's the opposite of what we should be doing. Stop doing that. Get wide, get forward runs, trust yourselves. There's no patterns of play, there's no linking up, there's no partnerships, there's no ideas, there's no creativity. And you can say, that's just due to poor players, that's because we're missing this magical 10 that we all think is going to save us. It's a team sport. How you move on and off the ball dictates the spaces and the passes. There are good passers in that team, but because there's a complete lack of movement, a complete lack of tactical awareness and patterns and coaching, everyone looks like a bad passer because there's nowhere to pass the ball. Pirlo couldn't play a pass in our team. So I'm conscious that people are going to expect Pogba to come in and start just throwing easy passes, linking up play beautifully. Honestly, the world's best passers would struggle on our team because to play a good pass, you have to have someone actually bothering to move for you. And unless it's a ball over the top, we just don't do it. That's the only way we ever make any movement. It's either Greenwood, Rashford, or Martial making a run in over the top, and it's an extremely hard ball, and it rarely works. And that's a coaching issue. It's a player issue, yes, don't get me wrong. But it's still a coaching issue and a good coaching setup, and that is Kieran McKenna, Michael Carrick, McPhelan, Ole, and the whole structure of the club would get more out of these players. I have absolutely no doubt. And to see it repeated ad nauseum against the same teams playing exactly the same way, people have spoken about this low block. Watford didn't play a low block today. They just came out and played a normal game of football. They weren't.
Yeah, I actually didn't think that we were pressing that much either today.
Pressing has completely disappeared.
Not near as much as we have in other matches.
If it's not a big team, we don't press. And equally, that to me is mystifying because Ole came out with all this chat in his pre-season tour and early start of the season and even last year about how he wants to be a super fit team that presses, a modern team, an attacking team on the front foot, winning the ball high and then attacking. That's disappeared. We did used to do it a wee bit, and then it looked like it got too hard. Injuries came, and we've completely stopped. He's abandoned the very blueprint that he set out for himself, which to me is another hallmark of why he isn't strong enough in character or astute enough to manage this club to any degree of success.
No, but I'll tell you that, one point you're like criticizing him for sticking to the same thing, but then I think maybe he's seen that at some points that press has not worked for us, and in fact it actually led to us conceding goals on the counter against other teams earlier in the season, and maybe it is something.
But is that not just not having the courage of your convictions? Because would you rather play out these drab games or play in a way that you've seen the league has tremendous success? So it's a blueprint for success set by Liverpool.
But that is actually, I do. You're right on that point. And as I said to you before, that this was a team that was starting to like so many things about it. And one of the things was the press. Yeah. One of the things was that these players are working their bollocks off, even if it's not resulting. At least to seeing them really, fighting for the shirt.
Yeah. Totally
fast going forward. And if we don't have that press anymore, and then you don't, because that was exactly a problem I had with like Mourinho teams that they were kind of like a bit more passive, waiting for the other team to make a mistake, and I just never to like that style.
No.
And whereas when we're pressing, when we're going for like the fast transition, maybe it's one dimensional that the ball is being sent forward, but it's still quite exciting in a way to watch that. And in fact, I don't know if you saw that in his post-match presser, Ole partly attributed De Gea's mistake today to the fact that we are constantly telling players like De Gea, as soon as you get that ball, send it forward. And he's kind of saying, look, he's thinking about the next move already, and that's why this mistake has come. And I'm sure
he said it was like a testimonial as well, which is absolutely true. He was aware of how bad it was, I think, but then he just.
And I think that's something you were critical about him last week that I slightly took objection to, was complaining about things he says in press conferences and all.
Well, I still think that's a big issue, because the second half of his press conference, the reporter kept asking why we struggle so much against these small teams, and he just came out with absolute garbage, basically, just wishy-washy. You don't get anything without working for it. The boys, I see the boys in training. He tells us this every week. I see the boys in training. I'm not worried, blah, blah, blah. And it just doesn't wash with me anymore.
Well, for me, that is not important. The only thing that's important is what is he saying to the players. And obviously, we don't know that. But there is a lot of stories coming out nowadays about Lingard talking about how I was getting a lot of criticism from Ole earlier in the season. There's been some other stories as well that even though in press conferences he's looking pretty bland, he's not saying much at all. Because we got used to Mourinho and Van Gaal, who were big characters, and Ole's obviously not that style. But there's been a lot of stories saying, listen, in behind, he's not that kind of character at all, and he is happy to give out a hairdryer treatment when it's needed.
I'm absolutely sure he is. I mean, you have to manage a group of players. He's clearly not a complete walkover, and he's been a manager for several years now. He's not just he's not completely fresh off the bus, he just stopped playing and went straight into management. He has managerial experience. You may completely disagree with the caliber of that experience, but he still has it. But just on that, one of the things he said before the Watford game, at least this shows he's aware, but before the Watford game he kept saying, don't expect too much, basically, because we're going to see more inconsistency here. You'll see more inconsistencies with this team. And I thought to myself, that's true, and we should all expect that. But how often do you hear a manager say that publicly?
Yeah, you're right. But
it is an odd thing to say, and I'm not. In that sense, he was actually more honest than he is in his post-match. Because he was, and he's right. We should expect inconsistencies from this team. But to come out and say it, and you say, I only care about what he's saying behind closed doors, but I don't accept that. I think it matters what you say in public. I think it matters to the players, but more than that, it matters to the fans. It matters to the general culture around the club and the kind of vibe and what everyone feels about the club and how much confidence we have in him and how much confidence the match-going fans have in him and how much confidence the board and the players take from that. And he could be giving a completely different message, indeed a completely different persona behind closed doors. But equally on the sideline, I mean, I don't want to go down the route of the body language analysis experts, but those, the Three Musketeers on the bench, just are cutting such forlorn figures all the time now, and you rarely see him get out of his seat anymore.
Yeah, that is a valid criticism. I mean, to go back to the press conferences again, maybe it's a 5 years ago, nobody watched press conferences.
No.
It's a totally new thing. I do not remember I remember, back in Ferguson days, you'd get the Manchester Evening News and you'd get one or two quotes from the press conference about pre-match, post-match, and that was literally it. Nobody had any clue. And you might get on Match of the Day minute or something of a manager, and it wasn't even the press conference. It was those interviews that are done immediately straight after the match in the tunnel. This whole focus nowadays on pre-match, post-match press conferences, it's a totally new phenomenon.
Yeah, and it gets done to a point where, you're quite right, it gets done to such an exaggerated point where you just get these stupid PR interviews anyway, that it boils down to meaningless stuff because it's being completely overdone. Because if you're going to ask someone for their opinion before the match, in the middle of the match, after the match, again after the match, and throughout the week, it's overload, it's too much, and it ceases to lose all meaning. But it's also due to 5-10 years ago, you'd have maybe 1 or 2 seconds a year, but it wouldn't be a hugely remarkable thing. And you'd obviously see clubs stay with managers for much longer. But now the manager, this merry-go-round that we have, is just such a side bet to football, basically. It's such a phenomenon of its own to see who's getting sacked, who's under pressure, who's going to replace them. And that's why we have managers who are, in the space of 10 years, managing 3, 4, 5 Premier League clubs.
Yeah, well, Watford are on their third manager this season, which is crazy to say.
It's absolutely you have coaches like Mourinho going to Spurs, which you probably would never have thought of 5-10 years ago. You have Ancelotti at Everton.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And obviously they just want their money and they're running out of jobs to take because they've done the circuit. They've done your AC Milans, they've done your Napoli, they've done your Real Madrid. I mean, Ancelotti, there's not a great club that he hasn't been at. Now he's at Everton. Are you kidding me? Does he want that project? No, absolutely not. But that's the business that football has driven itself into through more money, more demand for immediate results. And I know people will say that's a good reason to stick with Ole. It's not if it's not working. It's not if it's not working.
Yeah, I do, I'll go, what you said before I think is fair, that look, let's see now when Pogba comes back in, if it does make that difference. I will still say that, I think we do need 1 or 2 players in the January window, even though I don't think you're going to get the really top names on your list in that window. But even just a couple of loan players to fill in squad places for me will make a big difference.
I think it's a boost to the players. I think even if they're not necessarily, and I don't mean to say they're not the right players, but even if they're not our number one targets, I don't think we can afford to be too picky at the moment. I think we have to slightly gamble. I think signings would give the whole squad a boost, put a bit of pressure on, create a bit of a buzz, It would certainly help the fans, and there's a sheer bodies numbers. There's an issue just around the amount of competitions we're in and the amount of players we can field, as we've already discussed. So I think although we shouldn't be trying to sign players that don't fit the plan, I don't think it should be that hard to find players who maybe aren't your number one, number two, number three choice, or whatever, but that still should be able to come in and do a job, fit the plan, and not, Dan James is like Ole's number one starter on the team sheet.
Yeah, and if we talk back to today's game, he had a real stinker, didn't he? I mean,
and that's a consistent problem for him against teams that aren't open. So, and that's not his fault. Look, he's come from Swansea, instead of going to Leeds, and shouldn't be expected too much. He's already overperformed, I think, for what any of us would have had in mind for him. But he's played far 2 minutes. It's unfair on him.
Well, I was surprised, though, because he was one of the few who did have a rest midweek, especially of the attacking line, because, Rashford started, Martial started.
But I don't think it's a fatigue thing with Dan James. I think it's simply if he's well defended, he's well defended, basically. And if we don't get him in positions to play, then he's very, very quiet, and he still doesn't have the confidence in the United shirt, I think, to take it. I mean, I was watching him today and saying, with the people I was watching with, I was, see there, he should be going at that man, whereas he's always more likely to come back inside. Unless he has acres of space in front of him, he always comes back inside to Aaron Wan-Bissaka and just basically recycles possession. And it's not enough for a Manchester United right winger. And I say that not to be harsh on Dan James, because he really deserves very little criticism. It's more of a, why is he our only right winger? Why is he starting every single match? I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for Greenwood getting just as many minutes as Dan James.
Yeah, I think, and our right side was the big problem. I was looking at some of the stats, and my favourite stats are one, passing accuracy, and I was actually shocked myself that I knew we weren't playing that well, but on our right side, Dan James and Aaron Wan-Bissaka today are only hitting 55-60% passing accuracy, which is an absolute joke.
Truly, some people want to play Aaron Wan-Bissaka as a ball playing centre back in a 3, and he can't pass wind. Like, he is with the ball at his feet, he is bad. I mean, bad. Like, don't get me wrong, I've said it for months and months now. He's an exceptional defender and an average to very poor footballer.
Yeah, and I think we know that. I mean, one thing that I was surprised by, because I had Aaron Wan-Bissaka in my fantasy team last year, and even though I hadn't watched much of him, he actually did get a few assists, and he even scored a couple of goals. So I was actually expecting a bit more from him attacking-wise, but we've not seen much of that at all. Obviously, we know he's like the...
Yeah, he seemed to certainly have much more energy and sort of freedom with Palace to get forward into the box. And I think, it's a lot easier to play at small clubs and be that buccaneer in person, because there's not necessarily that expectation or that big issue when you do concede, because you kind of expect to concede, I suppose. Whereas at United, so many of our players look, I think, afraid to play for Manchester United. And I think that's a big issue for us. I don't necessarily think it's the strongest group in terms of personality or belief and confidence. When we don't start the game well, as today, as very frequently happens, it just gets worse and worse and worse. You just saw Lindelof misplaces a pass, then another one, then another one, then another one. McTominay today, extremely poor misplay. Was trying to force things forward. And if that's what you're asking from Scott McTominay, you've been set up all wrong, and it's going to be a long day at the office. He was very, very poor. It seems to be that if the game starts in a certain vein, we can't drag ourselves out of it. We just stay at that level up until the last, 20, 15 minutes, where it becomes, basically a requirement to push on, because you have nothing to lose at that stage. And to me, that speaks to the character of the squad.
Yeah, I mean, I know at half time today that we had a bit of a discussion between those all on the pod about, and some people started talking about saying, oh, we haven't got the right lineup and there should be different players. And to me, I actually don't see who we could have started with. The only one possible change is Greenwood, who, has really been knocking on the door now to say he deserves to be starting. Whether he comes in, I think a few people are saying he should maybe come in for James. I actually personally say that maybe Martial is the one who needs a rest and has not really been doing what he needs to be doing at all as a number 9. I'm not sure if this, I still call it a bit of an experiment to be playing him number 9 every week is working out, to be honest. When this season started, I thought Marcus Rashford was going to be playing centre forward every week and that Martial was going to be coming in from the left. That is what I thought was going to happen this season, and really it's been the other way round. We've seen a few times where it's had some limited success, but I just don't see Martial making the right runs. He doesn't seem comfortable in that position. And, the only thing he did today there was the one time he did something good, and it came from when he came in from the left, beat a couple of players, put in one shot.
Yeah.
He had one other chance early on in the game where he should have actually hit the target.
Yeah. And you would expect him to hit the target, because that is the kind of thing with Martial. You kind of put up with him being very in and out of the game, because normally every time he is in it, he's extremely effective. He gets one chance, scores it. His conversion statistics are always extremely good. He doesn't waste chances typically, but he did snatch at that first one. Interestingly, when we went absolutely gun-ho at the end, he was put out to the left. Him and Rashford swapped, and that was the first time since Ole kind of made that big decision that it's flicked back the other way around. And I think it was just let's just try this for these 10 minutes just to see if it's any different, because I think Rashford has shown that he is left forward this year. I think he is fairly cemented.
Yeah, he's been so good in that position now. It's going to be very difficult to move him out of that position.
And I don't think he's any better number 9 than Martial. I think Martial's natural ability lends himself more to number 9. I just think he's always going to be a very inconsistent number 9 unless you're so perfectly set up to the way that he wants to play. Now, he looked a lot sharper when Pogba came on. I would say he actually probably did the most in the last 20 minutes aside from Pogba. But yes, you do get 60, 70 minutes from him, which are just entirely forgettable. But then, there are those little touches of brilliance that, you wouldn't get from another player.
Yeah, he scored that goal against City just, 10 days ago.
And even today, there's a few wee flicks and touches, and sometimes he just holds the ball so tightly and so well and manoeuvres out. For me, it's still an application thing. And I know people say we just don't play to his strengths. We don't create enough for him. And I think there's certainly worth in that argument.
I have seen some people talking about saying, why doesn't Martial have a go at number 10?
I find that mystifying, Nick. It's just and that's just a classic thing with Manchester United fans, where I think we will go to the ends of the earth to avoid just saying maybe this person just isn't that great at football or isn't.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it was a lot of desperation of saying, listen, we all know that this guy is a damn good player. He doesn't fit in at number 9. Rashford has taken that left spot. We're struggling at number 10, so what's the worst thing that can happen? I don't think there's been too much big analysis behind it. I think it was more look, who knows, give it a try, let's see what happens. But yeah,
I think he is an easy player to overrate because he's so exceptionally talented, and he looks so good in patches. But I think patches is going to define his career. And I think that's the key. That's why he doesn't get a really look in for France. Obviously, he hasn't played in a great Manchester United team, and he still has a lot of time ahead of him. I struggle to see which big teams take him, and I struggle to see where he goes to consistently play great football. I'm not quite sure it'll be United. I think we'll end up buying another number 9 who will probably edge Martial out in that sense. And then, do we go 2 up top? To come back to the original point, I think there's a fair shout to say you would start Greenwood today instead of Dan James, but that's very easy to say in hindsight. And actually, I think it's a very marginal call. I think it's a very marginal decision. I think Dan James is more ready, but Greenwood's more talented, so it's just a flip of the coin call. I don't think you can criticise anyone too heavy for that. My thing is, I think he should have changed the shape. I don't understand why we're constantly relying on a 4-2-3-1 that really doesn't work against these teams, where we're focusing so much on 10s. If he had played Pogba from the start, I think that was something that could have been thought of. Now, I don't know how fit he was. He certainly looked to have no issue when he came on. Was he ready for 90 minutes? No, but if we have that game sewn up after the 60th minute, you can take him off. It's better than bringing him off when we're 2-0 down, bringing him on when we're 2-0 down, trying to get 3 goals. Do you know what I mean? Particularly for the team's confidence and everything like that. But that would have been a big call as well. My thing was we should just play a different shape, 4-2-2-2, 4-4-2, try it out. Why not? Why can't we play Rashford off the left, James off the right, and Greenwood and Martial up top? Those 4 players are better than having Jesse Lingard in the lineup. I'm absolutely sure about that. And you still have McTominay and Fred doing the exact same job. Your fullbacks are still going to do the exact same job. I don't think you lose. We didn't press anyway. One of the points of having a 4-2-3-1 with a 10 is that Jesse Lingard leads the press, and we put teams under a lot of pressure in that sense. That's why people play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. You look at Liverpool, so that all their forwards can press, and you have that one midfielder who's happy to step up and do that. We didn't do that today. So what was the 10 there for? Particularly at 10, who has not created a goal, assist or a chance in a year's worth of playing football.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking. He had...
It would have been the exact same if it was Pereira. So what was the expectation? And I get that Ole wants to play Lingard into form. I kind of get that feeling. He's had a tough time of it, whatever, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there had been these stories coming out where,
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I don't really take... all sympathy for him. It's a difficult spot, but I don't... for me, it's a professional job. You come in, you do your work. If you're there at work, you should be performing. I'm not going to give too much leeway for that, particularly when the problems I think were there for a long time, not just recently. But Ole has been kind of bigging him up lately and clearly wants to play him into form, and unfortunately it's been another letdown. But that's probably just a poor
It
decision.
has been the big gap for us the whole season, and I think we even identified that pre-season, saying that, look, most of the team picks itself.
But the coaching staff have willfully put so much stress on that position, so that
Well, that is, like you said, that is going to be now the most interesting thing. We're assuming Pogba now is ready to come back into the team. And there's been a lot of talk that, when he started it at the start of the season, he was playing Pogba centre mid with McTominay, and he was still playing, whether it was Pereira, whether it was Lingard, Mata at number 10. Most of us, I think, are now saying, look, surely Pogba has to come into that position because McTominay...
Fred cannot come out of that team.
Exactly. And McTominay, all right, he wasn't great today, but generally he's been doing very well.
He's nailed on as well, yeah. The real thing is, will he go for a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 and play Pogba 10?
Yeah, that is going to be the most interesting thing to see. Now, I think he will stick with the same kind of, formation. And yeah, Pogba is just going to literally come into whether Lingard, Pereira's position where they've been. And I do think it will make a major difference. We've seen before how he links with whether it's Martial, whether it's Rashford. He's not played that much with Dan James yet, or whether it's Greenwood either. But yeah, I am looking forward to see it. And yeah, I'm pinning a lot of hopes on that, to be honest. So yeah. Like you said it.
I think Pogba will play there and drop in a lot more, so it will look like a 4-3-3, but I think he will be the one being told, you play further forward. And I would like to see him as close to the box as possible, because Pogba can win games on his own, and he can make that big difference. Whether he can do it consistently probably would be the only thing he hasn't really proven in his career, because you only need to look at his highlight reel to see, and look at his stats indeed of his goals and assist tallies. I mean, he's right up there with De Bruyne in terms of how he's performed over the last few years in terms of output. So there's no debate there. It's whether it actually makes that much difference to the rest of the team and the tactics and the coaching and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and I always still think back to that first run of Ole's games when we had Pogba, Martial, Rashford, and in that time even Lingard looked like he was on form, who were all like playing one-touch stuff, passing, moving, whatever, and I'm just always hoping that somehow we can get back to that. Look, let's see. The game, we're in that time of year obviously where the games come thick and fast. I think in the next 10-11 days we basically have 5 matches, 3 league matches with Newcastle, Burnley, Arsenal, and then back on the FA Cup against Wolves, and then we're straight into that City semi-final in the Carabao Cup. So now this period will just really test us totally. And Pogba's not going to be able to play in all of those games either. When you're playing every 2-3 days and when you've been out for several months, there's no way you're going to play all those matches. So we have to see how Ole manages the squad through this kind of time. I've not actually been that happy with his squad management, and I think he's gone very strong in cups, and that it has hindered us on the weekend when we come into the league. Like if you go and look at the results, we had a big result in the cup against Chelsea, and then we went and lost at Bournemouth. And I think when you go and look at some of these poor performances, a lot of them are linked to having big performances midweek against teams who've had a full week's rest.
Yeah, I think he's been helped so much by the absolute unpredictability of the Premier League in terms of our rivals, because by all accounts we should be totally adrift. I mean, we should be 9th, 10th with not a mission of catching anyone in 4th, but as it stands, we still actually have that as a really attainable goal.
Yeah, we've fallen back from Chelsea a bit because they've beat Spurs today, and that was another story. But we're still in there, and especially with this Christmas period, we have to pull out some results. But that's been the biggest problem. You get those 2 wins, City, Liverpool, Tottenham, and then, like I said, I didn't even think the draw with Everton was so awful. But then, today was really like a backward step for sure. I mean, looking on the bright side, we did at least get through and qualify for the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup this week. For me, the most interesting thing is always looking at some of the young players who play in these competition, and I was actually slightly disappointed there wasn't a few more playing in this game. Tuanzebe was in there. I think he got injured because he wasn't on the bench today. I mean, there's some talk we've had, and I personally have been saying, look, I would like to see Tuanzebe come into the centre-back position ahead of Lindelof.
I mean, I don't think Lindelof barely won a single header against Troy Deeney today and looked really poor on the floor. He is really struggling at the moment, and I've been a long time fan of him. Thought he was really growing into it last year, but he's been poor this season, to be quite honest. He hasn't really had any kind of consistent form, and I think looked really, really dodgy. And then for a player like him, he's not the quickest, he's not good in the air. So when he isn't good on the ground and with his feet and kind of with his head, in terms of his intelligence, his kind of physical lack of ability really comes to the fore. So it could be not long before you maybe see Tuanzebe come in there. But I'd say Ole will still be hesitant. I think he wants to eke him in slowly rather than make a big call like that. And kind of, I think once you take Lindelof out for him in any meaningful way, you're going to damage Lindelof in a serious way there, I think.
I mean, like I said, that is actually one thing that I've not been as happy about in like the same month or so, because I want to see Tuanzebe in the team. Like, Shaw's played midweek, and I thought he's going to play Williams today. But he hasn't done. He's started Shaw twice in a week, and he looked lethargic. He's had a fair bit of the ball, but
he looked awful. But yeah, he did look tired as well.
Yeah, we know that Shaw is decent defending. We don't expect a huge amount from him attacking wise, but yeah, whereas Williams, gives you a lot more excitement in the attacking play for sure. So yeah, that has been a bit of a disappointment, because today again you look at our bench and there's Matic, there's Mata, there's Young, and really I want to be seeing Garner, I want to be seeing Williams, I want to be seeing Tuanzebe, and that is what I got excited about and why I want to support Ole, because he's talking about bringing through these players. And then if we do giving minutes to these kind of players, then I don't have the same kind of expectation, and I say, look, if we're playing youth, if we're doing it that way, then yeah, I'm happy to give time. So yeah, like I say, it's something that I've not been as happy about in the past couple of games, because I don't want to be seeing Matic, I don't want to be seeing Young, I don't want to be seeing Mata. And that's just going back to the players who've failed us for years and years going on now. And then who are all fine to be part of a squad, and if they play against Colchester, if they play in the Europa League, then yeah, I'm okay with that. But yeah, we'll see though. Now, like I say, the games are going to be coming. 5 matches literally in I think 11 days are going to be coming up now, and that's where we'll really see the full squad put to the test. And then we get into that January transfer window where I think we all agree we need a few reinforcements. Let's see where we are after that, really. But yeah, look, generally, as I said, this was supposed to be our kind of Ole in versus Ole out. I mean, in general, we're not as far as away in a lot of things as things.
No, and that's the thing. I think if you look at, particularly Redcalf and a lot of things, it becomes so
polarized. Yeah,
polarized and full of vitriol. I think people get I just see such a lack of manners, and people getting so aggressive about it and making it seem as though it's so black and white, and it clearly isn't black and white. Now, I would say, I in my head, I'm completely made up my mind that has gone far past the point of no return. I just cannot envisage a world in which Ole can turn this round and build anything of any real success. But I do think he can put us in a position where the next person has a much easier job and has a much better platform for success. But I don't see us ever having any meaningful trophies or anything like that under Ole. But it doesn't mean that you have to kind of come down to this really childish narrative where one person's an idiot and this is that and the other and that. And it just does seem to get that way sometimes, which I think is a bit regretful, because ultimately everyone is supporting Manchester United, and just because you want something different from someone else, or because you don't necessarily view the game in the same way in terms of what you enjoy or what you want out of it or what you see happening, a plan or lack thereof, doesn't mean that you should lose that respect or start being, like twats to each other.
I totally agree with that. There's nothing you can really argue with there. But I think that's just kind of the way things go online in general, whether it's Twitter, whether it's internet forums, and things just get polarized. People defend their positions. It's black or white, and in reality, normally everything is somewhere in the middle. And like I say, I think we just kind of have quite different perspectives on it all. Whereas I say, for me, the whole summer is a total reboot. Whereas other people might be saying, look, but we had such a poor run of form for going back over a year. There were several months going bad there and not seeing anything.
It is our worst points total at this stage since 1989.
Yeah, look, if you look at the stats, the points, you can't really defend it in any way. You can't. The only, like you say, it's only because the league is so bunched up in that middle that we're even still in the fight for it, so that it doesn't look as bad as where I think last season we were at a similar place, but we were 12 points off top 4 or something. Whereas this time, if we win 2 games in a row, all of a sudden you're right back on the tail of top 4. Because I think you'd said a few weeks ago, for me, I'm almost feeling like the season's a write-off already. But yeah,
I do feel that way. And one of the points I wanted to make earlier, and it's just come back to me, I don't mind us getting beat. I don't mind us losing. What I cannot stand is us being boring as anything and not creating chances.
Yeah, and look.
So that to me, that's a big thing. And I think a lot of people think that all the people who want Ole to leave and for us just to replace him with a shiny new manager like Pochettino and just buy loads of players and all this, that and the other are somehow fair weather or fickle fans or something like that and just want immediate success and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely not. I'm quite happy for us to struggle. But as we touched on earlier, see if we were going hell for leather, really pushing the pace, playing a press, looking quite dynamic, but getting caught in the counter or getting found out or kind of running out of gas a wee bit, I would really forgive that so easily. So easily. In fact, I would be fighting to the hilt for people to understand that this is actually maybe a really positive thing. And once we get this right, we're much more likely to achieve proper success because, you know, it is a hard thing we're doing, but that's not the case. It is lethargic. It's uninspired. It's unmotivated. It looks like it doesn't have a plan to me. It looks like we've abandoned certain things that I thought we were going to be doing. And that's where I really step off and go, oh, well, actually, I don't want to be bored. That's my thing. I don't want to be disappointed in terms of the lack of kind of application or incision or, you know, quality, you know, and I think a lot of that comes down to just the plan and the motivation and the desire of the players, and that's where I'm kind of like days like today and against Everton where you just don't see it. That's where I really, really
I do see a big difference between today and Everton. As I say, Everton wasn't great, but I still think that we did enough to win that game, and that, you know, VAR has let us down for the one goal that they've had. So yeah, whereas today we didn't deserve anything first half. All right, after we've gone 2 down, we have started creating. And yeah, Jesse Lingard misses a sitter. If he scores that, you know, it's a whole different game. You talk about like small margins and how things go here and there. And I say, you know, can you blame Ole for David De Gea letting in a howler? Can you blame Ole that Jesse Lingard makes absolutely the wrong choice in a one-on-one situation to try and go for like the most difficult way of finishing that goal you possibly can? You know, sometimes. But yeah, at the same time, I totally understand that if you look at it on a big picture, at the end of the day, the manager has to take the responsibility. But if he's had that whole squad now, Pogba's coming back, we're almost at full fitness. I still say, look, there's obviously weaknesses in the back of the squad that hopefully can be rectified in this kind of January window. But yeah, I can't argue with a lot of the things you say on the coaching side. Do I think that Ole is like the greatest coach? No. But I still think that he could be doing a lot better with giving better players, with giving more time to build that kind of squad. And like I say, things that are being done of bringing in young players, bringing in British players, it's something that I like and it's something that I feel that I can get behind. So that's why I want to see that kind of project put more forward. And as I say, it is a project that maybe it's not as much about the coaching philosophy, whereas it is more about...
Yeah, as just about hitting the big reset button and getting us on track in a direction that we all feel like we're behind. And I do get that. And I was and am so on board with that. As I said at the top of the show, I don't necessarily think Ole should be sacked today, although I wouldn't, you know, shed too many tears. I do think he's here to the end of the year, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. My thing is, I think next summer, unless we see something dramatic in these next 4 or 5 months, then it has to be replaced in the summer, because I think by that stage a lot of good work will have been done. But I think anything beyond that, then you just risk another season of kind of poor performance. But I do agree that there's a lot to be said just for resetting the culture of the club. And if that is the trip we're on, then, and if it comes with pain, then that's fine. There's no issue with that. But I have to see us moving in that direction, not just talking about it.
Yeah, and there is obviously also like the lowest bar. You have to set it somewhere. And, you know, if we're battling for like relegation or something like that, then yeah, of course, that's gone like beyond what's acceptable. You know, at the moment that you still say, look, if we can put together a couple of wins, we're still in and around like that top 4 fight. You say, look, it's at least like...
Yeah, we go and win the Europa League, and I'm pretty sure everyone would take that, you know, right now, regardless of where we finish in the league, you know. I know I would. So there's still outs there, and there's still chances for the season to be redeemed, but it's just tough at the moment.
After matches like today, it's definitely tough. But like I say...
But we'll spank Newcastle here on Boxing Day, so we really, I mean, it is Newcastle
on Boxing Day, who we obviously lost to relatively recently, and they're actually been on very good form really since then. They'd been absolutely awful until that game, but that was the game.
Well, we're level on points with them, so it's a 6 point, you know, it's a 6-pointer. How on earth Manchester United are level on points with Steve Bruce's? I mean, if you'd have said that at the start of the year with them having just signed nobody, lost Benitez, I mean, you would just... your head would explode, but that's the situation we're in. But it's funny now because the fixtures flip around and we're going to start playing teams that it will be interesting again because we're going to see the top 6 again and we're going to see all these teams we've struggled with again. So we are literally at the halfway point where the fixtures flip around. And if we don't do really well against Newcastle, I'd be disappointed because if I was those players, we've played this team. We knew what we totally underperformed. They overperformed and we got lulled into that trap as we have done so many times. And there should be that burning desire to remedy that because it's now a direct comparison between, well, that was our first game against Newcastle, here's our second game against Newcastle. What's changed?
And we're at home this time, so there's even less excuse.
And
then after that it's Burnley a couple of days after, away to Burnley, and then New Year's Day is Arsenal, who are going to be on their new manager bounce, I guess, by a couple of games into that one.
Didn't work for Freddie, so hopefully Arteta will.
Freddie was so awful, he didn't even get the new manager bounce, poor bastard. But anyway. But look, like I say, this run of games is going to show a lot of where this squad's at. Pogba, look, we are. I know I'm even putting way too much emphasis on Pogba myself, but
honestly, I'm so worried for so many people because if it doesn't just go so well.
Well, the biggest problem as well is that there's no way after being out. Like I said, I was surprised today after being out for that long that he made such an impact.
How good he was.
But when he's starting games and after being out for months, he's not going to be able to be anywhere near 100% match fitness. But
it is Paul Pogba, and he is, he's a talented player. He doesn't necessarily need to be at 100% fitness to be 100% amazing. Do you know what I mean?
Within seconds today, he was picking out balls that we haven't seen for months. Like, literally within seconds.
I mean, it did really expose the level of our team when he just looked a complete level above. I know I've given him a very hard time lately, and I stand by it all. I'm still quite sure he looked to leave in the summer, whether he actually successfully leaves.
But I still do think that there's a bit of Paul Pogba that wants to win something at Manchester United, and that he's going to really regret leaving without that, because it is and he's still got mates that he's grown up with there, whether it's Lingard, and there is definitely like a thing where I think he'll feel like it's unfinished business and that he does. And we didn't get onto it, but it's a point I'd scribbled down in my notes that when I talk about the positives of Ole, I really do think that the players are behind him and that they have really bought into what he's been talking about behind the scenes. Because you hear little things, there was an interview with Rashford the other day and they talked about him. They said, what's the difference between under Ole, under Mourinho? He said, well, Ole, he understands us. He was a player. It's an indirect dig at Mourinho in a way, but it's also like saying that, look, we are bought into what he's talking about. We are bought into.
And the games against the big teams, you can see that buy-in.
Totally.
You can totally see that buy-in. You can't see
there has to be a change. We can't go on like this, losing to Newcastle, Bournemouth and Watford. It can't go on like this. There has to be some change. And, there's only, like I say, there's a bar that you can't fall below it. So, let's see where we go from there. I think that's getting towards the end of the show this week. I'm not sure when exactly we'll come back because we're coming to that very difficult Christmas period where everybody's filling themselves, and even I'm not sure if when the editing guys will be available. But look, let's see when we can get on it and work it from there. But no, I think we've had a good chat and kind of tried to present both sides of it there in a respectable way, like you say, not like the ridiculous way sometimes things come.
I feel better about it all now.
Look, let's see where we go from there. As I say, I don't know when we'll be back, so I wish all our listeners a Merry Christmas out there.
Very happy Christmas.
Hopefully we will be back before the new year. I think we'll try and get something out there before the new year, and let's see us back where we are from there. Hopefully something more positive to talk about. Good evening.
Good evening.
Morn. On your knees. Oh, hear the angels' voices. Oh, night divine. When Christ was born, oh, night divine. Oh!